Coming up on this Thursday edition of Newsline at noon, in a rare gesture of reconciliation, officials from the two Koreas are meeting at the Truth Village of Panmunjom to discuss the North's participation in the upcoming Asian Games in the South. Official campaigning got underway this morning for the July 30th by-elections that are being dubbed a mini general election. Plus, the government unveils plans to develop non-oil energy industries and biotechnology into the country's new growth engines. These stories and more on Newsline at noon. It's noon Thursday, July 17th here in Korea. Thanks for tuning in. Live from Seoul, I'm Ju.
It's very good to have you with us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this lunchtime. Despite a recent spate of provocations out of North Korea, the communist state still plans to send athletes and a cheering squad south of the border in September. They're going to take part in the Asian Games, which will be hosted in the city of Incheon.
Right, both sides are holding talks on this Thursday to work out the details. Hwang Sung-hee reports.
Departing for the border village of Panmunjom for Thursday's working-level talks, South Korea's chief delegate said general issues surrounding the North's participation in the upcoming Asian Games will be up for discussion.
The working-level meeting is aimed at discussing practical issues regarding the participation of North Korean athletes and cheering squad members in the Incheon Asian Games. We enter the talks with sincerity with a goal of successfully hosting the Games.
Key agenda items in today's talks are the transportation and accommodations of the North Korean delegation at the Games and how their expenses will be covered. Also in question is just how many cheerleaders North Korea plans to bring across the border. If they plan to send a large number, as they've previously hinted, the squad might travel by ferry and use it as a place to stay, as they did during the 2002 Asian Games, which were hosted in the South Korean city of Busan. North Korea may also propose forming a joint cheering team and creating united teams for certain events. So far, South Korea has not been keen on the idea. The two sides are not expected to reach an agreement in their first meeting on Thursday. It's expected they'll need to hold additional rounds of talks before the Incheon Asian Games begin on September 19th. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
And the race is on. Campaigning for the July 30th by-elections officially began this Thursday, and the stakes are high, the highest they've ever been actually for a by-election, with 15 parliamentary seats up for grabs. Ji Myung-gil reports.
For the next 13 days, 55 candidates will be on the campaign trail, battling it out for the 15 vacant parliamentary seats that are up for grabs in the July 30th by-elections. 6 of the 15 seats are located in Seoul and Gyeonggi-do province, 2 in the Gyeongsang-do provinces, and 4 in the Jeollado provinces. The ruling Saenuri Party is fielding candidates in all 15 races, and its new chairman Kim Moo-sung underscored how important the election is.
The Saenuri Party must secure a majority of parliamentary seats through the July 30th by-elections. For the next 2 weeks, I will concentrate solely on the election and postpone all decisions until the results are in.
With no clear winner in last month's local elections, the unified main opposition party is determined to make a strong showing on July 30th.
These by-elections are a match that pits our party, which strives for a brighter future for all Koreans, against the ruling party, which is filled with arrogance and is blinded by self-righteousness.
During the campaign period, the Saenuri Party is expected to emphasize its connection to President Park Geunhye and its commitment to helping the administration achieve its goal of national reform. The main opposition party will focus on the government's mishandling of April's ferry tragedy and present alternatives to the ruling party's policies. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
President Park Geunhye and her science and technology advisors gathered on this Thursday to talk about specific plans to create new growth engines that could lead to job creation. Other challenges like Korea's aging society and climate change were also up for discussion. Our Choi-sun has more.
Because of the aging global population and growing health concerns, the Advisory Council expects there to be rising demand for bio-related industries over the next 20 years. While the government's increased R&D investments have helped the nation emerge as a world-leading developer of new medicine, not enough of the research results are being commercialized. Pledging to make Korea one of the world's top 7 bio-strong nations by 2020, the presidential advisors propose supporting Korean firms that specialize in biosimilar medicine enter the global niche market as a number of innovative drugs are close to their patent expiration. There were suggestions of streamlining red tape in the bio-related industries, such as simplifying the approval process for medicinal and medical equipment treatments, which currently take up to 3 years, and reducing it to 80 days. On the subject of tackling climate change, the Science Ministry vowed to expand R&D investments in renewable energy-related technologies, such as solar and fuel cells and bioenergy, to $2 billion by 2020. The Energy Ministry put forth energy project models, including a so-called negawatt of making a profit from saved electricity designed to spur private investments and create jobs. Lastly, the Land Ministry suggested easing regulations and offering tax support to boost construction of self-sufficient zero-energy buildings that minimize energy usage through insulation. Choi Yu-sun, Arirang News.
Now, today, July 17th, marks Korea's Constitution Day. This is a day when the nation's constitution, it marks the day when the constitution was first proclaimed in 1948. But not many Koreans, especially the younger generation, know what the day is all about. Our Hwang Sung-hee reports.
내일 7월 17일 무슨 날인지 알아요, 혹시?
아니요, 몰라요.
제헌절이 무슨 날인지는 알아요?
네. 헌법이 만들어지나?
혹시 내일 7월 17일 무슨 날인지 알아요?
내일 잘 모르겠는데, 그러니까 제헌절이라는 날은 있는 건 아는데 그거에 대해서 자세하게 아는 거는 별로.
Most of these teenagers on the street had no idea what Constitution Day is, and even if they knew, very few knew it fell on July 17th. A recent survey of some 12,000 elementary school students shows only half fully understand what the day is all about. A quarter didn't know what Constitution Day is, while 12% confused the day with other national holidays. Since 2008, Korea's Constitution Day stopped being a national holiday, a possible reason for the lack of understanding. So why was it removed? Simply because there were too many holidays. And to raise awareness of the day, the Constitutional Court of Korea is opening its doors to the people. Students attend lectures, take quizzes, and try on the robes of the judges. Through that process, they get to appreciate the significance of Constitution Day and gain a better understanding of their own basic rights.
By coming here, I got some questions I had about the Constitution and about the court answered. It was good to come here because I got to learn things I couldn't learn in school.
Experts say it's important for people, and in particular the nation's younger generation, to appreciate Constitution Day as it lays the foundation for mature citizenship.
By going through the meaning of the Constitution, students will realize what is the meaning of democracy, the rule of law, and the meaning of basic rights of the citizens, basic liberties.
The court plans to hold the event every year. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
Now, China has released its 14th set of confessions from Japanese war criminals in its attempt to raise international awareness of Japan's wartime atrocities. Amid its ongoing and deep disputes with Tokyo over history and territory, the Chinese government is publishing the confessions every day for a 45-day period. Kim Yeon-bin has the details on the latest release.
In the latest war criminal confession to be released by China, Geishi Shimioka, an officer of Japanese Imperial Army, admits that troops under his control used to engage in human target practice. He says that, at the time, it was his unit's policy, was to build up soldiers' courage by letting them shoot at Chinese prisoners of war. In July 1942, in Taiwan City, 220 POWs were used as live targets, and each Japanese cadet was ordered to kill POW.
In another instant, 340 new recruits killed 340 prisoners of war.
On top of this, Japanese troops used germ warfare on villages spreading typhoid and cholera to the residents. They also raped hundreds of women and executed them after, in an attempt to hide evidence.
After a young woman was raped, lower-ranked troops were often ordered to rape the woman's mother.
Geishi also confessed to personally killing numerous civilians and POWs using a traditional sword carried by Japanese officers. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
The US economy is expanding at a modest to moderate pace. That's according to the US Federal Reserve's monthly report, which was released in the US on Wednesday. It said all regions of the United States continue to expand their economic activity in the 6-week period that ended July 7th. It added that consumer spending and manufacturing were both up as well. Wall Street responded positively to the news, with the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ closing higher. The Dow Jones rose nearly 0.5% to close at its second record high close this month, boosted by news of a partnership between Apple and IBM and Fox's $80 billion offer. The fact that their offer was rebuffed for Time Warner.
And back here in Korea, policymakers have been drawing up measures to pull the country out of a low-growth trap since new Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan recently ordered them to explore all possible means to stimulate the economy. And this could include putting their hands on public funds as well. Sung Jae-sun has the details.
The government has rolled out a supplementary budget this year, but is determined to utilize all available state-run funds to stimulate the economy. Unnamed government officials told reporters that some 10 trillion won, or around $10 billion will be injected into the economy from public funds this year. Details have yet to be released, but officials say the National Housing Fund, which accounts for 9% of some $500 billion of funds run by the government this year, will play a major role in bolstering the real estate market. As a way to generate more construction activity, the government will also guarantee greater profits to companies taking part in infrastructure projects. To press companies to avoid hoarding excess cash and to increase investments, the government is considering levying taxes for cash reserves exceeding a certain limit. The government, on the other hand, says it will grant tax breaks and other incentives to companies going public or offering higher dividends. A comprehensive policy package designed to stimulate domestic demand will be released next week. Sung Jae-sun, Arirang News.
Time now for a look through the international headlines for following this Thursday. For that, we turn to our Eunice Kim standing by at the news center.
Eunice, a temporary ceasefire is set to take place in Gaza in the next few hours. This as Israeli police say they're looking into the awful death of these 4 young boys at a Gaza beach.
That's right, Mark. We'll get to that second story in a moment. But yes, both Hamas and Israel has agreed to that humanitarian pause brokered by the United Nations. It is about 6:15 in the morning in Gaza right now. That ceasefire to be effective from 10 in the morning to 3 p.m., giving UN staff a 5-hour window to transport food and medical supplies and also Palestinians to grab what they need. Meanwhile, Israel's military says it is investigating the death of those 4 young boys who witnesses say were struck down by Israeli fire. They say the boys' brothers and cousins ages 9 to 11 were kicking around a ball at the beach when Israeli airstrikes hit the area. A 5th boy remains in critical condition and 6 others were reported hurt in that barrage that struck near a hotel where foreign media were staying. Deadly rocket and missile exchanges for the past 9 days have killed at least 213 Palestinians. Hamas militants have fired more than 1,200 rockets into Israel, according to officials. And more pressure on Russia. U.S. President Barack Obama announced earlier this morning that he was imposing more sanctions against Russia for Moscow's failure to take concrete steps to control the violence in Ukraine. The target this round are some of the country's largest financial, energy, and defense companies. They would be severely restricted in their access to American debt markets. Meanwhile, EU leaders are expected to suspend large-scale financing of Russian public sector projects by the bloc's lending institutions. They will also widen sanctions, freezing the assets of companies benefiting from or supporting the Ukrainian unrest. The names of those companies have not been released. And the arrest warrant stands. A Stockholm court ruled Julian Assange's long-standing detention warrant cannot be revoked on grounds he is under political asylum, as argued by his lawyers. It marks a setback for the WikiLeaks founder fighting extradition to Sweden, where he faces sexual assault allegations. Back in August 2010, 2 women went to police, one saying she was raped by the Australian programmer and the other sexually molested. Assange has said that the charges are U.S. attempts to take him in for his work on WikiLeaks. He has been in hiding at the Ecuadorian embassy in London for more than 2 years. Assange's lawyers say they will appeal the court ruling. U.S. media conglomerate Time Warner has rejected an unsolicited takeover offer by Rupert Murdoch's 21st Century Fox. The offer was estimated to be worth about $76 billion, about 60% of that in stock and the rest in cash. And had it gone through, it would have made the combined company as large as rival Disney in market value. Analysts say despite the rebuff, Murdoch will likely continue his pursuit of Time Warner. And finally, the United Nations says control of the AIDS epidemic is possible by the year 2030. The UN AIDS Agency said related deaths and new HIV infections have fallen globally by 1/3 in the past 10 years. Growing access to drugs and preventative measures were a couple of the many factors contributing to this picture, but it called for a heightened international effort, particularly in the next 5 years. It called the fragile window of opportunity. Less than 4 in 10 people living with HIV are getting antiretroviral drugs. 15 countries accounted for all new infections, mostly in Africa, but also the U.S., China, and Russia.
Stay up to date on the latest news out of Korea. Connecting to our team of reporters about the issues that matter to Korea. On air, on your mobile, online. Find out more about Korea on Newsline at Noon with Mark Broom and Jin Ju.
I'm Jin Ju with 12.
Market researcher, strategy analytics said Thursday that LG Electronics brought in about 11.
Korea's producer prices rose in June on-year for the first time in nearly 2 years as farm products gained ground. The Bank of Korea said Thursday that producer prices inched up 0.1% last month and attributed the bump to livestock products, which have seen increases for 10 straight months. From a year earlier, livestock products shot up more than 16% in June. Korea has experienced rapid growth over the past few decades and is doing extremely well when it comes to things like exports, cutting-edge technology, and the like, but economic development doesn't seem to match up to the nation's level of happiness. A survey conducted by Ipsos Mori, a leading market research company in the UK, found that just 64% of Koreans said they were happy. This placed Korea 19th out of the 20 countries surveyed. In the least happy country, Spain, only 59% of people felt satisfied with their lives. Sweden topped the list with 88% saying they're happy. Canada and Australia ranked second and third, respectively. And in other news, North Korea has reportedly sent a letter of protest to the White House protesting against the first ever Hollywood movie dealing with its leader Kim Jong-un. Voice of America says Pyongyang called the movie The Interview an insult toward its leader. VOA also reported the North requested that the White House National Security Council review the letter, only to hear it cannot comment over the movie. The Interview is an action comedy that centers on how a talk show host and his producer, played by James Franco and Seth Rogen, embark on a CIA mission to assassinate Kim. Pyongyang also sent the UN Secretary General a letter of complaint last month, calling the movie a terror and an act of war.
Now, they're pretty good on the pitch with players like Ronaldo and the like, but Spanish football team Real Madrid has once again claimed another #1 title of its own. According to Forbes' list of the world's 50 most valuable sports teams, the European team was valued at $3.44 billion, taking first place for the second consecutive year. The next two slots were also occupied by football clubs, with FC Barcelona in second at $3.2 billion, followed by Manchester United in third place, which was worth $2.8 billion. The value is based on the club's equity, debt and stadium deals. The average value of the 50 teams stood at $1.34 billion. Now, Korean dramas and Korean pop music, K-pop, have made a name for themselves on the global stage in recent years. This has left many wondering whether Korean fashion is the next big thing. Well, those taking part in the country's largest fashion trade show certainly think it is. Park Geunhye reports.
The next global trend to come out of Korea is believed to be K-fashion, following in K-pop's footsteps. This show is part of Korea's biggest fashion business market and trade fair, which aims to help the country's up-and-coming designers venture into the overseas market. EXO, one of the hottest K-pop idol groups around, attended the opening to boost exposure of K-fashion. For designers, trade shows like this are considered the first step towards presenting their works on runways at major collections around the world. That's why young Korean designers like Kim Hee-jin participate in the fair, hoping it leads to lucrative opportunities.
In just a couple of hours, I was approached by foreign buyers from China and Italy. They said they like my designs and it seems like contracts will soon follow.
Influential foreign buyers think Korean designs have what it takes to thrive on the global market.
Back to basics in the colors and in the fabrics, but with this extreme cure about details. So everything that reminds me about a little bit like Rick Owens, Garth Pog.
Over 120 brands and designers participate in the 3-day event, which acts as a sneak preview for some of the trends that may reappear during Seoul Fashion Week in October. Park Geunhye, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. I'm Lee Ji-hyun with your weather update. Well, we have rain in store today across the nation. Rain is expected in the southern provinces from this morning into late in the afternoon, and then rain will expand to the upper areas later in the day. Well, the total accumulations will not be all that high, but heavy rain could fall at times, and thunder and lightning can't be ruled out. And the showers in the central and the northern regions could possibly linger into tomorrow morning. So with the nationwide monsoon rain in the forecast, temperatures should be a tad lower than yesterday. Highs in many regions will remain below 30 degrees Celsius. So let's take a closer look at the readings for today. The high in Seoul will rise to 30, while Daegu will top out at 29, and Gwangju and Busan will reach 27 this afternoon. And for other regions, Jeju Island and Dokdo both peak at 28, and Daejeon will reach 29, while Mount Kumgang tops out at 21. Well, don't forget to grab an umbrella on your way out. Now, that's all for Korea, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
And those are the stories we're following at this hour.
Jinju and I will be back at the same time on Friday. Until then, goodbye.